and welcome to this week's episode. I am Cassidy Cash, and this week we're celebrating the Bard's birthday. Today is William Shakespeare's 458th birthday. Happy birthday, Shakespeare! It's hard to believe that we're still celebrating his life and works over close to 500 years after he lived and worked. And I mean, that's before electricity, before cars, even before penicillin. It's incredible to think the longevity that his works have enjoyed. Now, of course, compared to people like Aristotle or Greek mythology, he's just a nice little youngling. But I'm still glad that we are enjoying his works today, and I'm sure you are too, which is why today we're going to celebrate the Bard's birthday by introducing you to 5 facts about the birth of William Shakespeare that might surprise you. Number 1 on our list of surprising things about Shakespeare's birthday is that the Bard's birthday is an educated guess. That's right, April 23rd may or may not be Shakespeare's actual birthday. The estimate of April 23rd is based on the baptismal records that we do have. They're housed at Holy Trinity Church in Stratford-upon-Avon, England. You can go there, you can see them, they are real. William Shakespeare was a real baby, and he was baptized at Holy Trinity Church on April 26th, 1564. It was not common for births to be recorded in the same way that is today. There wasn't this issuing of a birth certificate. So it's quite common for a person to not have a definitive record of their birth. But tradition tells us that the baptism would have happened within about 3 days of a birth, which is why we track back to April 23rd as when William Shakespeare was most likely born. But the reality is that we don't actually know his birthday, and there are mitigating factors that could influence when exactly a baby got baptized. So April 23rd might be a guess. So I think that's as good enough reason as any to enjoy cake and Shakespeare's plays all week long, just to make sure that we get it right. At least that's how I'll be handling it. Number 2. Shakespeare was born at home. There is a very famous house in Stratford-upon-Avon called Shakespeare's birthplace, and it's not just sentimentally titled that. It is actually believed that William Shakespeare was born in that actual building. People didn't go to hospitals like you do today. Oh, we're having a baby, let's rush them to the hospital. That wasn't what would have happened. Instead, a woman would have been attended at home by midwives, and her bedroom that she stayed in was most likely outfitted. There was a list of different things that went on as far as the protocol for giving birth in the 16th century, but she would have had the baby at home in the same bed and bedroom that they would have slept in on a daily basis. And a lot of women would have actually been taken to their bed to stay there on a kind of bed rest days or even weeks before giving birth. So it was very much a home-based birth for William Shakespeare. So when you see it called Shakespeare's birthplace, it doesn't have that name just because Shakespeare, as a small little William boy, grew up there. That's true, but it is actually the place where he's thought to have been born. If you're interested in more information on the history of pregnancy tests and things like that in the 16th century and the time William Shakespeare was born, we talk about that in episode 91 of That Shakespeare Life, and I'll link to that below this episode. Number 3. A holy day could really mess up your baptism plans. According to the baptismal laws of the day, parents had to have their babies baptized on the nearest holy day unless they had a legitimate reason. Now, I don't know what constitutes a legitimate reason, but if Shakespeare was born on April 23rd, then April 26th wasn't the nearest holy day. But one scholar, Dennis Kay, who wrote a book called Shakespeare, proposed that the parents would have had just such a legitimate reason to delay his baptism. We just don't know what that reason is. We do know that April 25th was St. Mark's Day. That was a Tuesday, and up until the Reformation, St. Mark's Day was considered unlucky. So it's possible that the Shakespeare parents didn't want to give the young William a bad start in life, and so they were like skipping St. Mark's Day. I don't know that. I'm just throwing that out there. And that is a suggestion made in Dennis Kay's book, so you can check out his book to see what you think. But the fact is, we don't really know why they picked the day that they did. Number 4. William Shakespeare was the oldest sibling in his family, but that's not because he was born first. John and Mary Shakespeare gave birth to 8 children, only 6 of which survived, and only 5 of those 6 lived into adulthood. They gave birth to Joan first in 1558, then Margaret, then William, our friend, the playwright, then his brother Gilbert, a second Joan, they reused the name from their first Joan, and Richard and Edmund. Both the first Joan and Margaret died in childhood, in infancy. With Joan died in very young infancy. She didn't even live past that first year. Margaret made it to a year old, but she died before she could turn 2. So William Shakespeare operated as the oldest in his family, and later in his life, you see him as the most likely source for the covering of major funeral expenses for his brothers later in life. So he really does operate as the oldest in his family, even though he wasn't born first. So that's why you see that happen. His brother Gilbert Shakespeare actually died young at about 39 years old, and the second Joan was the one that lived the oldest, and she lived it was either into her 70s or right at about 70 years old. So she lived quite a long life. She outlived William Shakespeare. Number 5. One fun fact about Shakespeare's birthday is that he's thought to have died on the same day he was born. That's right. William Shakespeare died on April 23rd, 1616, exactly 52 years after he was born. Interestingly, 52 years, as we mentioned, Joan lived to be into her 70s. So 52 wasn't exactly old for this time period. And a lot of people think that Shakespeare died after partying out with his friends, and he essentially caught pneumonia and took to his bed and never got up. Other people postulate that maybe he caught the plague as it was going around and succumbed to that. We don't really know how Shakespeare died. We know he caught an illness and he passed away on April 23rd, 1616. Exactly 458 years ago today, from complications of something. So while I don't know what Shakespeare died from precisely, I do know that today is a celebration of his birthday that I hope you will mark by watching one of his plays and maybe even enjoying a slice of cake in Shakespeare's honor. I know that's what we'll be doing around here. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Cassidy Cash. If you enjoy Shakespeare history, then this is the place to be. Hit that like and subscribe button because we're here every week. But that's it for today. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.